Well, here we go then. Happy New Year, everybody! Oh my gosh, what a holiday season! I gotta say, this was a year, and now it's another one. It's 2023. Welcome to the party. I didn't, because full disclosure, I'm not a Tom Hanks fan, but one of us, at least one of us, look at that. That's the first time she's heard that. One of us saw the new Tom Hanks movie, A Man Called Otto. This is based on the Swedish novel A Man Called Ove. This is the second time they've made this into a movie, and the first time they made a big mistake casting somebody so reprehensible. Angelina, you actually saw the movie. Good for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Let's
The fact
start
that
with
neither of you guys went to go see it, I'm like, for real.
Well,
You know,
okay. First
there
of
were-
all, I don't live in California. All right.
That's
I
true.
have a limited amount of theaters, and it was a limited release. I'm gonna see it in 2 weeks, maybe.
But aside from the empty theater, aside from the awful Tom Hanks, how was the movie? For those who don't know, it's kind of this thing about like a grump. And personally, I've always thought that Tom Hanks just is kind of vanilla. I don't find him super convincing as a grump from the trailers. Was he a good
Mm.
grouch?
Well, I think the whole thing is like psychologically, you kind of like break down, like you remember Up, right? The grouch from Up, like the old man.
Yeah.
You know that there's a reason why he acts like that and why he is that way. And maybe kids don't understand that, but like as we get older and we start to understand like the psychology of people don't just like start out that nasty. Like something happened to him, right? And
Yeah.
so I think he plays that really well. I think it was believable in the sense of like an old man trying to be this like tough old man, but you can tell like something happened to make him the way he was.
Yeah.
And then they slowly start releasing the story about his wife and like how, she ends up becoming paralyzed. And it walks you through in these, and they're not all together. The memories start at the very beginning from when they met and then work towards how, like when she died.
Makes sense.
But also the whole time he's trying to commit suicide. He's like
Yeah.
regularly trying to kill himself, and he does it, and he only stops in order to end up like helping this family. And he doesn't really, it's really interesting. It's like I honestly would love to read the book because it's a really interesting psychology of someone who is so like deadpan about wanting to commit suicide and wanting to join his wife, but also is so ingrained in like who he is that literally he ends up seeing the family and they're like parking their U-Haul, and the husband can't park the U-Haul. And so he's like hanging himself in his window, and he sees his new neighbors like running over the grass trying to park the U-Haul. And in the end, the noose ends up breaking from the ceiling. So like he can't commit suicide. It's honestly.
So wait, so there, it's like a dark comedy in that sense, where it's like, I can't do anything right.
Yeah. Kind of. I would say that it definitely has like comedy highlights, but I wouldn't say that it's a dark.
Okay, so there's chuckles.
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah.
And then I think my favorite line is when the neighbor, I forget her name, I have to look it up, but the neighbor meets Tom Hanks's character, and she's like, "Wow, you're really unfriendly." And he's like, "I'm not unfriendly." She's like, "Right, every word you say is like a warm cuddle." And I was just like, that made me chuckle really hard.
Yeah.
Well, so as a real life grump, I take offense to people doing impressions of. Well, honestly, here's the thing: I've seen Tom Hanks play nice guys. I've seen him play, uptight people, but he's usually just sort of a different slant on Tom Hanks. Did you still feel like it was him? After seeing him in Elvis, where he was hard to watch.
I didn't see him in Elvis. I actually haven't seen Elvis.
Don't.
Everybody says they really loved it, so I have to eventually.
Remember, if there's one thing you can take away from this show, not everybody.
Not Andrew.
But
I love it.
But how did he come across? Did it still feel like Tom Hanks in this role, or did he really venture off into something different here?
I mean, I think Tom Hanks is his face is so Tom Hanks, and it's always so Tom Hanks that like
Very
That's what
teddy
your
bear.
face
Tom
is. Yeah.
Hanks. He's got a very Tom Hanks.
You have to
Yeah.
put makeup on him because he just looks like he's filled with caramel. You know what I mean? Like
Aw.
I think that's Andrew's problem is like he's definitely like too sweet for him, you know?
I think he's like, I don't know. I think he's very endearing. He's endearing in this role too. So if that's what you do not like about Tom Hanks, then you're not going to like this movie.
You know what? Actually, what I was thinking is because it's so different for him, because he normally is this, you know, the guy who for some reason we're not allowed to dislike. Here to offset that and with a character who is really unlikable, but to give us the depth and to give us the reason and the backstory behind why he ended up like, I could see myself enjoying this movie based on the structure and the way that they present a nuanced psychological portrait of somebody who's in a really weird situation. So
yeah. And it is incredibly, there are multiple levels to it. There's a lot of layers, and you only start to figure out what happens as it goes. Like obviously in the beginning of the movie, when they introduce his wife, you're like, oh, something happened to his wife. But what you don't know is that she ends up paralyzed. They can't have children. Tom Hanks's character was like, had already built, like hand built this beautiful crib that he ends up giving to the family across the street. Like there are so many different, it's heartbreaking. I cried multiple times.
Do they
sounds
go
like
into like
wonderful
what
writing.
happened to his dad?
I actually had to make like a mental note as a woman. I'll be honest, like our hormones get kind of weird sometimes, and I was like, why do I keep crying? Like, am I okay? And I was like, no, like I'm good. I'm good. What? It's just a story. It's so heartbreaking because at the end of the day, like I think all really and the basis of life is love, and I do believe in that, like love with friends, love with family, love, like most of us hope that we'll meet our soulmate, right? Like that's just a thing. I don't know, do men think about that stuff? Women definitely do. And to see this man who was really only living for his wife, and he admits to it, he was like, she was everything, there was nothing before her and there's nothing after her, and the whole story essentially goes to show him that there is a life after her and that he can remember her, but life is still worth living without her. But seeing somebody so devoted to this woman, he gave his whole life to her, and seeing how they, like what happened in the story, I mean, it was, y'all.
So it's just about his wife.
4
Didn't talk
times.
about his dad at all?
They talk about his dad a little bit, just like a very small amount. But he died. His dad died when he was like 6 months ago from the time he tried to enter the army. So his dad died at like when he was like 17.
Okay.
But he taught him how to build stuff and stuff like that.
In the Swedish movie, it's very like, it is kind of funny just because it's just very like, oh, something good's kind of happening. Sadness, you know, that's kind of the movie.
Yeah.
And spoiler alerts for this movie that was like from 2015. His dad dies. He's like, his dad was like very hard on him, and he shows his dad like his grades, and my God, and he's like, oh my gosh, my son's a genius. He's gonna be the boss of us one day. Hey, everybody, look at this, and you know, like showing everybody at work his report cards, and gets hit by a train immediately, like just out of nowhere. And like the son doesn't even Hobie doesn't even realize it, because he's just like, you know what, I did it. I made my dad proud. And then he like hears screaming, and he looks down.
So they do include the train in the movie. There is a scene where Tom Hanks tries to kill himself in front of a train, and he gets pulled up last minute.
That's
and he ends up saving somebody in front of a train. But then his dad has already passed away by the time the movie starts. So it's really interesting. I kind of want to watch also like Swedish. There we go. So I was like, wait, Swedish movies tend to be like really like kind of dark.
They are very much.
Yeah, they're.
I was getting very much.
I mean, the fact that you even said that he saved somebody from a train as opposed to his dad getting run over by him as a young kid, I'm like, Yeah, they kind of Americanized the story here a little bit.
They did,
Yeah.
for sure. But I also wonder how close. So was the original adaptation, the Swedish adaptation, was it closer to the movie? Or closer to the book? Did
To the
you
book.
read into that?
Well, it's got the same title. That definitely helps. I think it
So one
does.
step closer.
I would like to read it. It'd be interesting. It'd be very sad. It's very. Did you guys ever watch The World's Greatest Dad?
Mm-mm.
It was a Robin Williams movie, and it's kind of like this, like where they're like, "Oh, it's a comedy," and then it shows some of the darkest, most depressing scenes you'll ever see that like just breaks your heart of like talking about family and stuff. That's kind of what I get from this movie is that it's like you got to do like a little research, like you have to know more about the plot so you don't go in and being like, "Oh, it's Tom Hanks, he's being grumpy in this movie," and then you like find out like, "Oh my gosh, his life has been terrible. His poor wife, he's just trying to kill himself and he can't even do that. That's how terrible his life is."
I will be honest,
Um,
since joining this show, I have not Googled, like I haven't done any research, and I just walk in and see these shows and I'm like, what is wrong with you people?
I
That was like the vibe I got from this movie. I was just like, y'all really just
You know what? I think
throw me in the deep end.
if you're going to be watching a film critically, I think it's better to see it without doing any research because then you can really get
That's
taken
fair.
along for the ride
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you can experience every moment as the creators intended you to experience them. Because otherwise, you go into these preconceived notions of like this is the movie I'm here for, and so you can get let down by something that's advertised as a comedy. And even recently, there was a
Absolutely.
sort of an article going around about like trailers that cut scenes from the trailers, that never ended up even being in the movie. So anyway, you've seen this now. What's the appeal? Who's the audience for this movie, and is there a reason that somebody would actually want to go experience this pretty emotionally devastating story? Is there hope at the end? What's the appeal?
So much hope. I think it's a story about life, and I think it's a story about love and loss. Like it's a story about life. Like life is hard, life is difficult, life is love, life is loss. And I think it is really fundamentally that is the basis of the whole movie. And I think if you want to watch a movie that is really just based on a very realistic human experience instead of some like fluffy like cotton candy stuff sometimes, I think this is a great movie to watch. I will be honest, it was a bunch of old people in that movie theater. I was the only young one in there.
You know what?
On
Same
this
with
limited
Fablemans, and I
release, yeah.
love that. I love that
Yeah.
movie. So maybe that's. I I think some of these movies with heart and real, I guess, real values
Yeah.
appeal and are maybe marketed toward older crowds. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm a younger, but
I think
I like them.
it's just, yeah, I think it's really important just to, realize that the human experience is more vast and 3D or 4D versus these 2D movies that I feel like we're getting a lot of the time. 4D,
That's
whatever
the
you want to
worst
call
way to
it.
explain to describe
Look,
life.
everybody. What?
I
Life?
want to go on record and say that's the worst description of life I've ever heard. 4D.
Oh,
Because
I know. Sorry,
because I
guys.
experienced a lot of movies in 4D plus this year,
And it
and life
wasn't
is
it.
not a shaking seat and misters spraying in your face. I'm sorry. Well, you know what? I don't know.
But
Maybe that's what life
it is.
comes into.
But it is. Life is quite literally a mister in your face. That's what it is. It's
Yeah.
just, it's not exactly what you expect. And I think this movie is not exactly what you would expect when you sit down. And I think it's a really beautiful story. So
Well, I think that sums it up. I'm happy with that. Thanks for going to see it.
yeah.
And actually, you've convinced me. I think I'll give it a shot.
Please
because
go see it.
if they open up the release, maybe, or maybe
Yeah.
I'll
Let's
wait
go
till
to
it
the
streams.
Grove
We'll
at
see.
12.
But if you saw this, let us know what you thought in the comments. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, follow us on all of the things. We're on all of the things. So yeah, this has been, I guess, the movie of the week. That's what we'll call this for now. Have a good day or a week. Come back soon. See you later. Bye.
Who knows?